Hello YouTube, this is Neon. This is Compassionate Listening Part 2. So the first thing that I want to say on compassionate listening is that compassionate listening is not easy. It's not easy, okay? We all think that we're great listeners. I don't know too many people who would say, I'm a terrible listener, I don't know how to listen. We all think we're great listeners, okay? It's not easy. I liken it to an article I had read about changing running form. Running form, the way someone runs is so fundamental to their being, their physiology. Changing that form, even if it's as simple as adding a couple of inches to each stride, can be incredibly complicated. And learning to change the way one listens can be incredibly complicated and literally can take years of practice. It can take years of practice. As I said, this can be particularly useful in the job area. This can be useful if you have people with big dreams who are your loved ones, or if you have people who are your loved ones who have suffered trauma and need someone to talk to. But it can take years. As I said, just like changing one's running form. So this learning compassionate listening requires new skills, okay? And some of those skills I will give to you in this series. So I remember I was going to take on a sub, and I had let him know that what I wanted from him in return for me donning him to show me respect and to edify my life was for him to compassionately listen to me perhaps an hour or 2 hours a week, or an hour to 2 hours for every session that we had. This guy actually he was a lawyer, right? He said, oh, that's no problem. I'm a great listener. That's why I'm such a success. I'm like, who says that? Like, really? Who says that about themselves? I'm a great listener. That'll be no problem. I'm a great listener. That's why I'm such a success. Really? So I remember I was talking, just casually, I happened to mention that something about the fall of one of the great empires, Inca or Aztec or something, and he went off on a tangent and started telling me all this stuff about the fall of Rome and how much he knew about the fall of Rome, and just monopolized the conversation. And I realized this guy listens with his mouth. He doesn't listen with his ears. He doesn't know how to listen. He's very self-satisfied. He did what the world said. He got a really good degree and a good job, and he lives in a good neighborhood and has a nice vehicle. And here I am on SSI. He doesn't see me as his equal, so why would he listen to anything that I have to say? Because I'm a very skilled dominant, I found that submissives will be completely submissive during the session. But once the session's over, it's very difficult, because ultimately they're not humble and they're not teachable. And to be a good compassionate listener, one has to be humble and one has to be teachable. This attorney in particular, because he did not consider me his equal, was incapable of listening to me. Ultimately, I called him on it, and he did what most submissives do. He kind of threw his hands up in the air and said, okay, well, forget it, I don't want to be your submissive. More often than not, I'm the one who tells the submissive, I don't want them to be my submissive. So the foundational principles of listening is that it requires two ears and no mouth, or very little mouth. It requires that a person put a little bit of heart, a little bit of mind, and at least a little bit of attention into what the person who is speaking, into what they're saying. Compassionate listening it does not mean that a person listens long enough so that they interrupt, or what I would say, interrupt and interject their thoughts, advice, help, comparisons, telling the speaker how to feel, how much to feel. Listen to the speaker's situation and then explain the speaker's situation to the speaker as though the person who's speaking knows less about their own situation than the listener does, or contradicting the speaker. None of that is compassionate listening. And there are people who think that they always have an answer, and they think that because they always have an answer to what someone's saying, particularly if it deals with that person's dreams or that person's trauma, because they think they have such a good answer, they think they're a great listener. We do not listen with our mouths. We listen with our ears, eyes, heart, and mind. We don't listen with our mouths. Now, an example of this would be the wife or the husband who comes home and they say, "My boss told me off for no reason. I had a really bad day," and he was grumpy. Or she was grumpy. And the wife or the husband, instead of just listening to the situation and being compassionate, what do? They interject their thoughts. And they'll tell the person, well, maybe you're taking it the wrong way, or maybe you did something wrong in that situation, or maybe you shouldn't take it so seriously, or here's how you should have handled that situation, or other people have it worse in the world. Why are you complaining? Why are you making such a big deal about it? Don't feel bad about it. Don't make a big deal about it. You shouldn't be upset about this at all. This is life. And a lot of times they will try to explain the person the situation. Well, maybe your boss was having a bad day. They don't listen. Listen with our ears, not with our mouths. All of what I just said, by the way, are platitudes. It's useless information that doesn't help anybody. Now, cues to listening and situations where the mouth is used to give cues that the person who's listening, let's say if the speaker is talking about childhood trauma, these cues are things such as, even though there's NFL internet. Oh yeah, interesting. These cues are something along the lines of, let's pretend someone is telling me their story. Maybe how they survived rape or childhood trauma. These would be some of the verbal cues that I would give to let them know that I am paying attention, that I'm showing some interest, that I am following them. Okay? These are the cues. It would be, oh. Now, again, let's pretend you're speaking to me, and this is me giving you cues that I'm following what you're saying. Okay? Oh. Okay. Shaking my head. If something really bad happened, I'd be like, or if they say something in the negative, or perhaps something that shouldn't happen, I may shake my head. If they say something that maybe was good, I will nod my head. I will show some kind of interest in what they're saying. If I'm not super interested, I'm not going to pretend to be super interested, but I'm not going to be like a wall, or be like, you're speaking to me and I'm not interested, and I'll be like, Okay, so I'm going to show some interest. Even if I'm not interested in all, I will show at least a little interest if this is something that's important to you and you are my loved one. I will still show some kind of interest. Now, it's not easy. I had to practice this a lot. I had to practice this a lot. It is the same as, oh my gosh, it is the same as getting in shape. It is the same as getting in shape. I'm working out now and I'm getting in shape because eventually I'm going to be taking off my shirt. I hope, the Lord willing, when I complete my workout challenge. Learning compassionate listening is like that. It's like getting in shape. For a lot of us, it's not easy and it requires practice. So I have no interest in American football, U.S. football. But I've used a lot of these cues when people are talking about football or basketball. Like, I have no interest in any of this stuff. But if I care for them, I will do some of those things like, oh. If they say, yeah, and he scored 30 points, like, oh. You know, I will give you cues. Let's say if you're a big NFL fan, I will give you cues to be respectful to let you know that I'm listening. All right? All of this has limits. All of this has limits. And I will continue to talk. As I continue to talk, I'll let you know. What listening is not. Listening is not pretending to be impressed. Or pretending not to be impressed, for that matter. Listening is not agreeing with what the speaker is saying. Listening is not saying, I like what you're saying. Listening is not saying, what you're saying is factually correct. Listening is not saying that what you're saying is sound. As I listen to you, me listening to you doesn't mean that I'm agreeing or believe that everything that you're saying is sound. And it's not me pretending to give off any of these impressions. Listening is listening. Now, listening is not, it's not being a wall. It's not being a tape recorder. Okay? I've talked to people who I let them know that I needed them to listen to me, and they really didn't know how to listen. They didn't know what listening was. They listened with their mouth. So if I told them, I'm not looking for your advice, I just need you to listen. With some of these people, they would become like a wall, stone, no expression. They may or may not look in my direction, but if they do, their eyes would glaze over and it would just like, they're speaking to me and I'm like, I'm speaking to them and this is what they're like, and I'm just thinking to myself, whoa, this is weird. And it's like I'm speaking, I don't know if you can see my door, but it's like I'm speaking to my door. That's what it's like. It's like I'm speaking to my door. That's frightening. That's not listening. Listening is not being a wall. I could talk to a wall if I wanted to, but I would prefer to talk to a human being. And then lastly, listening is not being a tape recorder. I've had people who I'm talking to and they're texting and they're doing things on their cell phone and they're claiming to listen, and I would tell them, you're not listening, you're texting, you're online, and you're doing all this stuff, and I'm trying to talk. And they would say, oh yeah, I'm listening, and I kid you not, they would repeat everything that I had to say word for word. I'm like, oh my God, how did they do that? Like, and they were texting and were doing all of this stuff on their phone, and I'm like, and they repeated everything that I just said word for word. That's scary. Listening is not being a tape recorder. So this is going to conclude part 2. So if you like this video, please like, subscribe, share, comment, commercial, recommend my video. Do one or more of those things. Thank you. Best wishes.